Hello, everyone, and welcome to the English podcast. Today, we are going to talk about basic personal topics in English. These are simple topics that people usually talk about when they meet someone for the first time. Learning how to talk about these topics will help you start conversations, make new friends, and feel more confident when speaking English. Basic personal topics are part of everyday communication. When people meet, they often ask simple questions to learn a little about each other. For example, they may ask about your name, where you are from, what you do, or what hobbies you have. These questions are friendly and help people feel comfortable during a conversation. For beginners, it is important to remember that you do not need long or complicated sentences. Short and clear sentences are perfect. For example, you can say, "My name is Anna. I am from Spain. I like music." These sentences are simple, easy to remember, and very useful in real life. Even small sentences can start a conversation and help you practice speaking. Talking about personal topics also helps you learn important English vocabulary. You will practice words about countries, cities, jobs, hobbies, family, and daily life. These words appear in many everyday conversations, so learning them will make it easier for you to understand other people and answer their questions. Sometimes people feel nervous when speaking about themselves in English. This is very normal, especially for beginners. But remember, you do not need perfect grammar to communicate. The most important thing is to speak slowly, use simple words, and be friendly. A smile and a positive attitude can make a conversation much easier. Another important part of talking about personal topics is asking questions. Conversations are not only about speaking, they're also about listening and showing interest in the other person. If someone tells you where they are from, you can ask, "Do you like your city?" If someone says they like sports, you can ask, "What sport do you play?" Asking small questions helps keep the conversation going. Basic personal topics are also a great way to practice English every day. You can practice introducing yourself, talking about your hobbies, or describing your daily life. You can practice with friends, classmates, teachers, or even by speaking out loud when you are alone. The more you practice these simple topics, the more confident you will feel. In this episode, we will explore several important personal topics step by step. We will talk about introducing yourself, talking about your name and age, describing where you live, explaining what you do every day, and sharing your hobbies and interests. Each topic will help you build simple and useful sentences in English. By the end of this episode, you will have many ideas and examples that you can use in real conversations. You will be able to speak about yourself in a clear and simple way, which is a very important step when learning English. We will talk about how to introduce yourself and say your name in English. This is usually the first step in any conversation when you meet someone new. A simple and friendly introduction helps people feel comfortable and ready to talk with you. The easiest way to start is by saying, "Hello, my name is," for example, "Hello, my name is Maria." This is a very common and polite way to introduce yourself. You can also say, "Hi, I'm Maria." This is a little more informal and is often used with friends or people of the same age. Both sentences are correct and easy to remember. Sometimes people also add a friendly phrase after saying their name. For example, "Nice to meet you." So you can say, "Hello, my name is Maria. Nice to meet you." This makes your introduction polite and friendly. When the other person hears this, they often respond with, "Nice to meet you too." It is also common to say where you are from after you introduce yourself. For example, hello, my name is Maria. I am from Spain. Or you can say, hi, I'm Alex. I'm from Canada. This gives the other person a little more information about you and helps the conversation continue naturally. When you introduce yourself, it is important to speak clearly and smile. Friendly body language, eye contact, and a calm voice help create a positive first impression. Even if your English is simple, people will understand you and appreciate your effort. You can also ask the other person for their name. For example, you can say, "What is your name?" or "and you." These small questions show that you are interested in the other person. Conversations work best when both people speak and listen. Practicing introductions is very helpful for beginners. You can practice saying your name, your country, or even your city. For example, hello, my name is Anna. I am from Poland. I live in Krakow. Short introductions like this help you build confidence when speaking English. Finally, remember that introducing yourself is not difficult. Simple sentences are enough. The goal is not to speak perfectly, but to communicate clearly and politely. The more you practice introducing yourself, the easier it will become. After you introduce yourself and say your name, people often ask simple questions to learn a little more about you. Talking about your age and basic details helps the conversation continue naturally. A simple way to talk about your age is to say, I am 20 years old. For example, I am 25 years old. This sentence is very common and easy to use. Many people also say a shorter version, I'm 25. Both sentences mean the same thing and are correct in everyday conversation. Sometimes someone may ask you, how old are you? This is a very common question. You can answer simply with your age. For example, I am 23 years old. You do not need to add more information unless you want to. Short answers are clear and natural. After talking about your age, you can also share a little more basic information about yourself. For example, you can say if you are a student or if you work. You can say, I am a student or I work in an office. If you are learning English, you can say, I study English. These small sentences help people understand your daily life. Another simple thing you can talk about is where you live. For example, I live in a big city or I live in a small town. You can also say the name of your city or country. For example, I live in Madrid or I live in Poland. Sharing where you live makes the conversation more interesting and personal. When you talk about yourself, remember to use simple sentences and speak slowly. You do not need difficult words or long explanations. Even short sentences can give useful information and help you practice English. It is also polite to ask the other person similar questions. For example, you can ask, how old are you? Or where do you live? This keeps the conversation balanced and friendly because both people share information. Talking about your age and basic personal details is an important step in learning English. These topics appear in many everyday conversations, especially when meeting new people or practicing speaking with classmates. We will talk about how to describe where you live. This is a very common personal topic in conversations. After people ask your name or where you are from, they often ask where you live. Talking about your city or town is simple and a great way to practice English. A simple sentence you can use is, I live in. For example, I live in Paris or I live in a small town. This sentence is short and very useful. You can also say, I live in a big city or I live near the sea. These small details help the other person imagine your hometown. Sometimes people ask, "Where do you live?" When you hear this question, you can answer with the name of your city or country. For example, I live in Warsaw or I live in Spain. You can also add a little more information, like I live in a quiet town or I live in a busy city. You can also talk about what you like about your city or town. For example, my city is very beautiful or my town is small but nice. You can also say, there are many parks or there are many restaurants. These simple sentences make your description more interesting. Sometimes it is nice to describe places in your city. For example, there is a big park near my house, or there is a river in my city. These sentences are easy to say and help the other person understand more about where you live. You can also talk about your home. For example, I live in an apartment or I live in a house. You can say, my apartment is small but comfortable, or my house is near the city center. These simple sentences give more information about your daily life. When you talk about where you live, remember to speak clearly and use simple words. Words like city, town, house, apartment, park, street, and center are very common and easy for beginners to learn. Finally, it is good to ask the other person about where they live. For example, you can ask, "Where do you live?" or "Do you like your city?" This keeps the conversation friendly and balanced. We will talk about how to speak about your daily life. This is another common personal topic in conversations. People often like to know what you do every day, whether you study, work, or have hobbies. Talking about daily life is a great way to practice simple English sentences. A good way to start is to talk about your main activity during the day. For example, you can say, I work in an office, or I study at university. If you are learning English, you can also say, I study English every day. These sentences are short and clear, and they help the other person understand what you do in your daily life. You can also talk about your daily routine. For example, I wake up at 7 in the morning, or I drink coffee before work. These sentences describe simple actions you do every day. You can also say, I go to work by bus or I walk to school. These small details make your sentences more interesting. Another idea is to talk about what you do after work or school. For example, in the evening, I watch TV or I read books at night. You can also say, I like listening to music after work or I go to the gym. These sentences show how you spend your free time. Talking about daily life is a good way to use simple verbs like wake up, go, work, study, eat, watch, read, and listen. These verbs are common in everyday English and easy for beginners to remember. Using these verbs helps you describe your day step by step. You can also add your feelings about your routine. For example, my day is busy or my routine is simple. You can also say, I enjoy my work or I like studying English. These sentences make your conversation more personal. When you talk about your daily life, remember to use short and clear sentences. You do not need complicated grammar. Simple sentences are enough to communicate your ideas and keep the conversation friendly. It is also nice to ask the other person about their routine. You can ask, what do you do every day? Or do you work or study? These questions help continue the conversation and show interest in the other person. We will talk about how to speak about your hobbies and interests. This is a very popular topic in conversations because people like to share what they enjoy doing in their free time. Talking about hobbies is also fun and helps you learn many useful English words. A simple way to start is to say, I like. For example, I like reading, or I like music. These sentences are very easy and perfect for beginners. You can also say, I like watching movies, or I like playing football. Using the phrase I like helps you talk about many different activities. You can also use I enjoy to sound a little more natural. For example, I enjoy cooking, or I enjoy traveling. These sentences mean almost the same as I like, but they add a little variety to your English. Beginners can use both phrases in everyday conversations. Another simple sentence is, in my free time, for example, in my free time, I read books, or in my free time, I go for walks. This sentence helps you explain how you spend your time when you are not working or studying. You can also talk about why you like your hobbies. For example, I like reading because it is relaxing, or I like sports because they are fun. Adding a reason makes your sentences more interesting and gives the other person more information about you. Sometimes people also talk about new hobbies they want to try. For example, I want to learn to play the guitar, or I want to travel more. These sentences show your interests and your future plans. They are also simple and useful for everyday conversations. When you talk about hobbies, remember to speak clearly and use simple words. Words like read, watch, play, listen, cook, travel, walk, and learn are common and easy to use. These verbs appear very often in English conversations. It is also important to ask the other person about their hobbies. You can ask, what do you like to do in your free time, or do you have any hobbies? This helps the conversation continue and makes it more interesting for both people. Talking about hobbies and interests is a great way to connect with others. Sometimes you will discover that you like the same activities, and this makes conversations more enjoyable and natural. Thank you for listening to this episode about basic personal topics. By practicing these simple topics, introductions, personal information, where you live, your daily life, and your hobbies, you will become more confident speaking English in everyday situations. See you in the next episode.
Leave a comment under this video and one of you will get 40 English lessons for free.